name is Mr. T. First name is Mr. Middle name is that period. Last name is T. Listen and listen good.
That's right. I own Mr. T and the T-Force. But not just one issue, no. I own the first 4 issues. The vendor I found these at did have 8 of them, but I wasn't ready for that kind of commitment yet, and I really wish I was. But for now, I'm just going to cover the first issue, because I don't want to give away the greatness that is a comic book about Mr. T, involving him getting shot by crack cocaine needles, getting high and fighting monsters, and a giant cyborg man, among other things. So that's why I'm gonna be greedy and stretch this out as far as I can, just like The Walking Dead. Originally published by Now Comics, which are now defunct, Mr. T and the T-Force is kind of like a Captain Planet ripoff.
Hey, all you Planeteers at home! Remember, turn off the faucet between usages and recycle those plastics. Or else, I'll turn you into a fucking tree.
I want to tell you about something that happened to us in Seattle. You know, sometimes we get so wrapped up in how a problem bothers us, we don't see what the problem really is. You know, my little friend Kim found it out the hard way. When we tangled with this mean dude who was messing with people's minds and stealing their thoughts.
That lasted 11 to 14 issues. I guess no one's really sure. There's not a lot of information on Wikipedia or the internet in general. But on the upside, every single issue came with a little Mr. T trading card.
A 3-time wrestling champion, Mr. T was also a star football player at Chicago's Dunbar High School, where he received his diploma. He is living proof of his motto: don't be a fool, stay in school. T's tips: pumping iron is great, but don't forget to pump books too.
You can trade those with your friends if you get enough. Released in 1993, written by Pete Stone with art by Neal Adams. That's right, the Neal Adams of Batman/Green Lantern/DC Comics fame drew this comic. He actually illustrated the first 2 issues, and then after that, Norm Brayfogle was brought in, and I assume he probably didn't last long here because, oh boy, were the Mr. T comics a trial and tribulation that many could not pass. The book begins with Mr. T literally smashing the hood of a car and shouts that he's getting rid of crime and drugs in this hood. T informs the 4 drug runners in the car that he knows of their plans to sell drugs to small children and orders them to get out so he can whoop all their asses. So the guys all leap over the windshield with various blunt objects as Mr. T just smiles like a madman. And meanwhile, something sinister happens in an alleyway. Back in the fight, Mr. T pounds the fools, and some guy flies through the air at him with giant knives, but Mr. T just punches his head into the cement. Then he makes his way towards the final fool when he's electrocuted. A man with a trench coat stands between 2 goons and holds a gun and a big-ass cattle prod and says that they're gonna stop this crazy mohawked man from ruining his business. I guess this guy just follows around his employees to make sure they don't steal the drugs. Maybe this is like some sort of sitcom where the 4 guys are just wacky pranksters, like Friends. And Mr. T's like,
you come to talk with guns? Then you're not here to talk at all. Talking to this.
And he whips out this weird sci-fi thing that resembles a gun. And the man in the coat threatens him to put the fucking gun away because, like, he's outnumbered and they will easily kill this man because they're drug dealers. And Mr. T's like,
T doesn't carry guns. It's a video camera.
And then he pops in a blank tape that he just pulled out from his vest pocket and starts rolling. Yeah, that's a good idea, T. Bring out something that looks like a gun in front of drug dealers who have already pulled guns on you. Maybe all those chains will deflect the bullets. These 3 guys are just so surprised that this big black guy with a mohawk and an unknowable number of gold chains around his neck just like whipped out a video camera that Mr. T is able to rip the rifle from a man's hands and then bashes the dude's face in. Then the other goon aims his rifle, and as he's about to fire, Mr. T bends the barrel and it explodes in the guy's hands. Holy shit, I guess fucking he can deflect bullets.
That's how we got ourselves involved in the mystery of the Rocky Mountain Express.
T straps the camcorder to his arm somehow and grabs the cattle prod and redirects the electricity through his body and into his finger and back into the drug dealer. The last drug dealer is like, holy shit, what just happened? And then Mr. T stops and just like sits there and stares off blankly and asks if the guy hears something. And then he drags him out of the car and into the nearby alleyway, and they discover a large dumpster. And Mr. T flings the lid off, and inside lies a bag. And Mr. T's like,
I can't believe the treasures people just throw away. That's why T is always dumpster diving or shopping at Goodwill.
so, what is in this bag? This comic that has to do everything with drug dealers? Why? It's a crack baby! Mr. T opens the bag and finds a little crack baby. That's right, this comic has both drugs and dumpster babies. Mr. T starts crying like a real man, and the kid's like, hey, what is it? Because I assume he went blind from the shock that is experiencing Mr. T. Well, Mr. T gives him an answer.
It's a crack baby, fool!
Then Mr. T tells him about girls on drugs and baby dumping, and he looks directly at the reader as he curses the guy out for selling this woman drugs. How does Mr. T know that this is an actual crack baby? And how does he know that this guy sold her the crack? He sure seems to make a lot of assumptions. Then Mr. T orders this kid to hand over his shirt so he can wrap up the crack baby, and then forces the baby onto the drug runner and tells him it's his responsibility now. Then he snaps on what looks like a tracker for people under house arrest around the guy's wrist and says that it's a communicator device that also allows Mr. T to track his location. That's right, Mr. T had a smartwatch. Multiple of them.
I get angry just thinking about it makes me mad. Little kids doing drugs, it turns my stomach. That stuff hurts. It stops you from living up to your potential. It holds you back. It hurts the user. It hurts his family. And it hurts his friends. I just want to check some sense into you kids that are using drugs and thinking about using. So remember, don't, or else.
See, the way to get people to do good is by forcing them to do good. Duh. So T blackmails this guy into keeping the baby by threatening to show the police, who they can hear driving down the street towards the carnage that T left in his wake, the videotape that he took, and then he, like, rips off one of his thousands of necklaces and gives it to the guy, and I guess it's imbued with the power of the T-Force. Then he simply walks away and tells the guy to take the baby to a clinic and then get a job. Gee, that sure is a simple task, Mr. T. What is it you even do? How do you afford all that gold?
I want to tell you a story about a couple of disappearances.
Then he threatens him with some more blackmail and takes off. So this guy takes the baby to the clinic 3 blocks down, finds a nurse, and asks her if someone can take care of this child. And the nurse takes the baby and is like,
You scum! You get your girls hooked on junk, totally messed up, and then you do this to them? I can't believe you! You leave it to others to fix your mistakes! I quit!
That's right! This fucking nurse, who somehow can just tell a crack baby from a normal baby, even though it clearly shows no signs or symptoms of a crack baby, quits after screaming at this dude. I mean, you're a nurse. Isn't that part of your job, is fixing mistakes other people make? It was a mistake when I accidentally sat down on that phallic object, but the nurse still helped me.
Take it from me, Mr. T.
Then Mr. T gives him a ring on his smartwatch, and T's like, the nurse just took one look at me and quit. And Mr. T's like,
Oh, so help me God, you better not be lying to me, boy.
and then the guy notices another person in the hospital with the same T-watch. Jesus, I wonder what he did to get stamped with the T-watch. Meanwhile, Mr. T is leaping across rooftops and crashes through the ceiling of a warehouse and discovers a giant cyborg man with a bowl cut. To be continued. I hope you enjoyed this short episode of What Is, and join me in a fortnight for another. Let me know what you thought of this weird comic, and also let me know if you want to see more of this weird comic. And make sure you leave some recommendations for other comics I should read. Also,
I pity the fool who don't subscribe.
bye.
Last I heard, those thieving bums won't be ripping anybody off for 5 or 10 years. And Courtney learned a valuable lesson in Hawaii because she was afraid to learn how to swim.
What dost thou want? Wouldst thou like to live deliciously? Wouldst thou like to see the world?
You're lucky too. You got a buddy. Me, Mr. T. And I'm gonna teach her to ride this horse. Mother, there is no other like mother. So treat her right. Mother, I always love her. My mother. So treat her right. Treat her right.